Yo, yo, welcome back. It is another night. We are coding, and we're going to talk in this video about push notifications. Now, we don't have the time to set up remote push notifications. That's a whole different beast, but we are going to add some local push notifications. I've covered this on my YouTube channel, and I will put a link below with some background on it. But these are the notifications that we can send from the device, and we can schedule them in advance. So push notifications is actually one of the best ways to improve the retention of your app. You can imagine that a user downloads your app, installs your app, and then tomorrow they forget about it. So what you could do is set up a push notification so that 24 hours after they install your app, they get a notification. Hey, remember us? Come on back. And it's a very quick and easy way to improve the user retention in the first couple days of your app. It's also free because we can just do it with the frameworks that Apple gives us. Now, if we wanted remote notifications where we were going to actually manually send the push from some sort of web service, that takes a lot more work, and usually we have to pay for that. But we're going to do the quick free version that I would definitely recommend you should not release a V1 of your app without. So in order to do this, we're going to create a new manager called a push manager. Part of the reason that I'm creating a new manager for this is that even though we are not adding remote push notifications, you could imagine a future where we modify some of our code and actually add in push dependencies. So we send our push notifications through the Firebase cloud, through OneSignal or Braze, which are very popular push notification services. But for right now, we're going to keep it simple, but we're still going to add a little bit of architectural logic to at least have one class that's going to manage all of our push notifications. Let's create a new folder called push. In here, we'll create a new empty file called the push manager. In here, let's go ahead and import foundation, and we'll create a main actor, observable. Let's make it a class, and we'll call it the push manager. Just like our other managers, we're going to create an initializer. This time, though, we're going to slack off a little bit and not create a mock service. So this is going to be one example of we now know how to create the mock services. We've done it in all of our other managers. We create some sort of protocol. We erase it to a mock. We have multiple implementations. But for right now, we're going to skip that layer, and we can always refactor to add that layer later. Primarily, I'm skipping it because the push notifications are something it's a small feature. I don't care that much about them. I'm not going to write tests for this, but we know how to do that later if we want to. So we're not going to inject a service. So we're going to create a couple of functions here. Firstly, let's go ahead and import Swiftful utilities. And inside these Swiftful utilities, there also is a folder for local notifications. This package is public, so you can always go in and just copy and paste the code for these local notifications. I've covered this on my YouTube channel as well. It's just basically convenience methods to access Apple's user notifications framework. So we have a request notification and a can request notification method. Let's jump into our push manager. Let's create a func called request authorization. This will be asynchronous and throw, and it will return a Boolean. And the Boolean will be whether or not the authorization is authorized or not. Let's go ahead and return try await. We'll say local notifications dot request authorization. One more, we'll do the can request authorization. Async throws and returns a bool. Actually, I think this can just be async. We'll do await local notifications dot can request authorization. Again, this is a bit of an abstraction that we don't really need, but we're doing it like this so that in the future, if we decide to create a mock service, we can very easily refactor this out later. Let's just start with that for now. So let's go ahead and put a push manager in our app. Let's jump to our dependencies. And now we don't have these services to inject. So for all three of these builds, let's just go ahead and set and create a push manager down here. We'll say let push manager of type push manager. We'll set push manager equal to a new push manager. Again, this is just one example of we know how to do the architecture, but we do not need to do it every time. We're going to move fast here. We're going to set this up. We can refactor it later. Let's also take our push manager and just throw it into the environment. And now let's add some logic for actually requesting the push authorization. I'm going to jump into the Explore view, Option Command Enter, get the canvas working. We're going to go up to where we have our toolbar. So in the top left, we have a dev settings button. Let's add another toolbar item. This one will be the top trailing. And just like we have here, a Boolean and then show a button, let's do a Boolean at the top here that says show notification button of type bool. If show notification button, let's put on the screen a notification button. The reason we're doing the if is because if they already have approved or rejected the notifications, then obviously we can't request it again. And our previews are crashing here. We must not use the previews for a while. Let's pull in our push manager. We'll call it the push manager. Let's go to the bottom and let's add in a preview environment. Add it on all three of these, and then let's right click on preview environment. Also in here, add a dot environment with a push manager. All right, let's get the preview working here. In the top right, we're going to put an image with a system name, and we'll do the bell.fill, like a notification bell. Let's give this a font of headline, as well as a little bit extra padding, maybe 4. Give it a tappable background, and we'll give it as any button. We'll give it the default. Let's get that on the screen. So right now, show notification is false. Let's just put it as not show notification so that we can see it on the screen here. All right, there's our button. Let's give it a foreground style of accent so it looks like our color. Let's move this to a private variable. We'll do a private var push notification button of type some view. Paste that in here. And then we're going to do a private var private func called on push notification button pressed. We'll call that from our code here. We'll put our push notification button on the screen. Now, just like we did in the last video, when we click this, we're going to show a modal rather than triggering the OS prompt. So after we request the authorization, the user is going to either approve or disapprove the push notifications. And if they don't authorize it, the only way that they could turn push notifications on is by going into the settings on their iPhone, going to the app, and then changing the notification from off to on. And that's a lot of friction in that process. So most of the time, if a user clicks no, they're basically never going to have push notifications in your app. And that's a pretty big loss to basically never be able to send them push notifications. So what we're going to do, just like the ratings, we're going to show a custom modal, ask them if they want push notifications. And if they do, at that time, we'll actually request the push notifications. So up here, let's do another at stake private var. We'll say show push notification modal of type bool equals false. And then on here, let's go ahead and add a show modal, bind to the show push notification modal. Down here, let's create a private var push notification modal of type some view. And it's going to be our custom modal view. Option enter, triple click, control M. Let's make the title enable push notifications, question mark. And then we'll say, we will send you reminders and updates. Primary button will say enable, and then we'll have an action. Secondary will say cancel. We'll have an action. Let's create 2 more functions here. Private func on enable push notifications pressed, and one more on cancel push notifications pressed. We'll call enable from our primary. We'll call cancel from our secondary. Our push notification modal will be up here in our show modal. On push notification press, we'll say show push notification modal equals true. And then on these other two, we'll set it equal to false. I want to do false here as well. Now, if they say enable, let's go ahead and request the notifications. So we'll do a task. We'll say let is authorized equals the push manager dot request authorization. I guess we have to try await here. Let's go ahead and we need a little bit of logic for actually showing the push notification button. So we'll do dot on appear. Let's call a private func for, let's say, handle show. This will be a function, and we'll set the value for show notification button equal to, let's go ahead and await the push manager dot can request authorization. Make this async, and maybe we can actually make this a task, and we will await handle show push notification button. So this will be set to true if we can request the authorization. So if we can request it, then we will have the button. And if we click the button, it should then display the modal. All right, I will remove the not here. So it should be if show notification button. And then let's add a little bit of analytics quick. So we want analytics for button pressed, enable, and disable or cancel. Let's come down to our analytics. We'll say case push notifs pressed. We'll do push notifs start, push notifs enable, push notif cancel. And then after enable, we'll have an is authorized of type bool. So let's copy and paste this 3 times. And this will be the start, the enable, and the cancel. Explore view, push notifs start, copy, paste, paste. Let's go enable, let's go cancel. For the enable, we should have this value. So we'll say case dot enable, let is authorized. Let's go ahead and return a dictionary with a key that says is authorized. And we'll say is authorized. We don't have any, these are all just analytics, no problems there. Let's come up here and we will log manager track event.push start, event.push enable. Let's go ahead and put that here. And we will say is authorized will go here. I don't think this will actually throw errors. We could add a analytic for catching those errors as well, but let's just move fast and ignore that for now. And then also we'll do one here for push cancel. If I click the button in the preview, it should now pop up our modal, enable or cancel. Let's cancel it, enable it. I'll click enable. And it did not work. That either is because we're in a preview or because there's a crash happening for the info.plist. Let's go ahead and build and run it to a simulator quick. Let's click it. We got our modal, looks great. Cancel, working, and enable. Would you like to send notifications? Allow. Awesome. It's exactly what we wanted, except now this should set to false. So after we go and call this, let's call handle push notification again. So let's do here, if we finish this, we'll say handle show push notification button, and we can await. And that should set the button to be hidden because once the user makes a decision, we no longer need to show this button. Go ahead and build and run. If we build and run again, the button is gone. Great. Last couple things that we need to do here. To actually enable these push notifications, we do need to add a capability to our app. Let's come up to our app and let's go to our target. Let's go to our signing in capabilities. And then we should have here a capability for push notifications. So let's add here push notifications, and that should automatically connect. And that will add the correct values to allow our app to actually send the notifications to the user. And then lastly, now that we enabled the push notifications, I want to actually schedule a couple of them. So in our push manager, let's create another function here. We'll say schedule push notifications for the next week. And we'll just get a little hacky here because we don't want to invest a lot of time and effort and resources into push notifications just in our V1. So when we go and call this, we're going to call this essentially every time the user opens the app. And so this way, if the user opens the app, we'll set up notifications to trigger 1 day, 2 days, 3 days in advance. So if the user keeps coming back, we won't have to send the notifications. But if they forget about our app and they go maybe 2 days without using the app, we'll send them a notification to come on back. This is a quick, easy, hacky solution to improve the retention for your app. Because we're calling this a bunch of times, let's first cancel any outstanding notifications. So we'll call local notifications.remove all pending and local notifications.remove all deliver notifications. Again, this is coming from Swiftly Utilities. If you jump into this, you'll be able to see the code and you can just write it yourself. Now let's schedule a bunch of notifications. We'll create a task and a do and a catch. And in here, let's go ahead and say try await local notifications dot schedule notification. And we're going to pass in content and trigger. So when you schedule these local notifications, there's basically a couple different triggers when you want to send the notification. Let's say let trigger. We'll set it equal to a notification trigger option dot. There's 3 different types that are possible. I've made these an enum for the Swiftly utilities. We're going to trigger it based on a date. And so let's add here, let date equals, we'll call it date, and we'll say adding time interval. We already have our method for days. Let's do days, and let's just do 1 day from now. So if the user uses your app at 9 p.m., you trigger the push notification at 9 p.m. tomorrow. Pass in the date, and we'll make this false because we're just going to send 1 notification. So now we have our trigger. And then secondly, we need the content. We'll say let content equals any notification content. And we don't need a custom ID, but the title, and let's say test. And then the body, we'll say test. And we'll delete this. The default for push notifications is that sound is true. So when the notification comes, the device makes a sound. And then the badge would be the little red dot that comes on the home screen. So you can set this to a custom number. Usually it is just 1. Let's just leave that as the defaults for now. Now we can pass in our content. We're going to do this for a couple different notifications. So let's create a private func here called schedule notification. Let's pass in a title of type string, a subtitle of type string, and a trigger date of type date. We'll make this async and throws. And let's just cut this and put it in here. So the title will go here. The subtitle will be the body. The trigger date will be this. Let's just do trigger date here. All right. So now let's schedule a first notification for tomorrow. Let's schedule one for in 3 days, and let's schedule another one for in 5 days. Tomorrow, let's go ahead and say try await, schedule notification, triple click Control M. And this first one will say, hey, you ready to chat? Open AI chat to begin. The date will be date. Let's cut this here, adding time interval of 1. Let's copy, let's paste it here as well. The second one, let's just change up the copy a little bit. We'll say maybe someone sent you a message. Even though we don't really know that's true, let's just try to get a little clickbait so that they open up our app. Open AI chat to respond. Let's add this 3 days from now. And then a 5th day. So if somebody doesn't open our app for 5 days in a row, we'll say maybe, hey, stranger. AI. And maybe the subtitle says, don't forget about us. And then this will be 5 days from now. We have a catch here, so we should probably add in some analytics. Let's go ahead and pass in a log manager of type log manager. Optional equals nil. We'll say private let log manager of type log manager. Self.log manager equals log manager. And now let's create we'll create an event. Let's just do a success and a fail. So we'll say week scheduled and week scheduled fail. Pass in the error of type error. Copy and paste 1 and 2. Line them up. Go ahead and push man underscore week schedule. And let's do fail. For the failure, we will get the error. We'll say .fail, let error, turn error.event parameters. And then for the .fail, let's go ahead and make that a return severe. Let's trigger these quick. So we'll say here, log manager, track event, event.success, and one more here for event week fail error. All right. Couple more quick things here. So when we get the authorization, let's also log that into the log manager as a user property. So we'll say let is authorized equals this. We'll return is authorized, and we'll say log manager dot add user properties. Let's add in a dictionary here. We'll say push is authorized, and we'll set it equal to is authorized. Is high priority will make this true. We can actually one line it because it is not that long. This way, now in our mixed panel analytics, we can also filter and segment by people who enabled push notifications. So maybe people that have push notifications retain way higher. And then we can determine, okay, this is something that's really important for our app. Let's add in a lot of logic and do a lot of work around making sure that users authorize the push notification rather than just the simple modal that we're displaying right now. Last but not least, we need to now schedule this, and we need to inject a log manager. Back in our dependencies, we have our manager here. Let's go ahead and pass in a log manager of type log manager. All right, and let's jump into our Explore view, and let's add a quick analytic here. We want to trigger this every time the app loads because we added logic here so that we can trigger it multiple times because we'll cancel all the outstanding ones and then trigger new ones. But I don't want to do it every time that the Explore view appears. I want to trigger it only the first time the Explore view appears. So really, we don't want to do on appear. We want to do on first appear. First appear, which we don't have a modifier for. So let's build out a custom view modifier for that. It'll only take us about 2 minutes. Let's jump into our components, view modifiers, right click, new empty file, and this will be a on first appear view modifier. Let's create a struct on first appear view modifier, view modifier. Let's comment this out so that it compiles. Let's go ahead and import SwiftUI. Every view modifier needs a body, pass in the content, and then we'll go on appear. And up here, we'll have a quick at state private var did appear of type bool equals false. And we'll pass in an action. We'll do a function that returns void. And then we'll say guard, make sure it did not appear already, else return. So if it did appear already, then it will do nothing. Otherwise, we'll set did appear equal to true, and we'll call our action. Let's create an extension of a view, and we'll create a func called on first appear, in which we'll pass in our action. This will need to be escaping, and it will return us some view. Let's return self as is with a view modifier called on first appear, in which we'll pass in our action. This should be on first appear view modifier, sorry. While we're here, let's also do a task. So let's just copy this and paste it here. We'll do on first task view modifier. And this time we will do a task. The action will be a function that is asynchronous and returns void. And we will await the action here. So now we can also call on first task. So let's copy this, paste it here, on first task, async function, and this will be on first task view model. Quick and easy, super powerful. Gotta love SwiftUI. Let's go ahead and jump into the Explore view. And now we should be able to call .on first task or on first appear. Let's create a private func for schedule push notifications. Let's call push manager dot schedule push notifications for the week. And this is not asynchronous, so we'll just do it on first appear, schedule push notifications. Let's build and run it to a simulator. And I think if we did everything right, our analytics will show us that the push notifications are at least scheduled for the week. All right, if I filter for the push manager week schedule success, and our button is now gone, but we have now set up local push notifications. It took us maybe a half hour, but if you actually put your app out there, just something, even if it's like as dumb and stupid as push notification that says, hey, ready to chat, that will increase your retention. And you can now run A/B tests and test out different push notifications and convincing people to come back. And they really do work. The push notifications are surprisingly more helpful than you would expect. Cool. I'm glad we did it, even though it took a little extra time. Do not sleep on push notifications. Start with local ones. They're quick, they're easy, they're cheap and free. And then once you get going, then you can refactor the push manager to actually have a service that you inject, have a remote push service. Maybe OneSignal is a fairly cheap option. Firebase has cloud messaging, which works. Otherwise, Braze is a much more premium solution. So after you get going, definitely invest in some remote notifications. But for sure, if you're not going to do that, this is a great, quick, easy approach for your first V1. Let's Option Command C. Let's call it a feature. And we'll say add local push notifications. Stage it, commit it, push it up to GitHub, and I'll see y'all in the next video.